Good morning, garden friends. I'm here in the market garden, standing in front of my pollinator row and the sweet potatoes, which currently are pretty much the only healthy part of the garden. Oh, it's been such a tough year. So today in the market garden, I'm going to be harvesting the onions, which I'll swing over, swing this way, are in this row here. These onions I planted in May as sets that I had grown from seed, and I started those in February. And they've been in this row all year, and they've had very little water. I watered them in when I planted them, and for a couple weeks after to make sure that they were established. And then, it rained this spring quite a bit, and then I stopped watering, and it stopped raining. So they've had very little water. So despite that, the crop doesn't look that bad. So today I'm going to take these all out of the field, and I'm going to put them up in the greenhouse and let them further cure for storage. These are 2 storage onion types and a shallot, as well as some fresh onions way at the end that I didn't harvest fresh, so they're probably mush by now. But the main onion crop is designed for storage. And so we have to cure them before we can put them into storage, or they'll rot. And I'll show you up close what that means. In the onion row, the first section here is planted with a variety called Red Carpet. And it is a red storage onion that is supposed to be comparable to Red Wing, which is what I normally plant, but perhaps slightly smaller in size. And that is something I've definitely noticed. Red Wing usually produces very large onions for me, and these are consistently smaller, although we do have the added stress of no water this year, so that could have contributed to it. Anyway, so these have started, these have flopped over, and although these are still standing up, typically what happens, and I'll pan over here, you'll see the foliage will flop over and then dry off. You can accelerate the process, which is what I'm going to do today with these, by basically just folding them over. And that damages the tissue and starts the process of the onion sort of cutting off this neck here and drying and curing. This here is almost, I would say, pretty much ready for storage. You want to make sure that when you put onions into storage, or when you cut the foliage off for onions that you want to store, that it is completely crispy brown and dry all the way down to the neck. Actually, this neck still feels a bit fleshy. You really want them to be crispy dry. And what that does is it seals off the neck of the onion from bacteria getting into the onion and causing rot. So all of these onions are going to get pulled, regardless of whether or not they're crispy. They're going to get pulled and put into the greenhouse where they can continue to dry a little longer. Now, storage onions can be used at any point in their growth as fresh onions for like your salad. And as you can see, I've been pulling out onions throughout the season to use for cooking and salads and whatnot. So even though they're storage onions, they are edible long before they get put into storage. I'm going to walk down here, and here we start the second storage variety I grew this year, which is Patterson. It's a large yellow storage onion. I've grown this for a number of years and have had really good success with this. And again, you can see some that are still standing upright and some that have flopped over, others that are crispy brown. Normally when I go to pull my onions, they are more like that than that, but I'm probably about a month behind on pulling these onions out of the ground. And that's okay, they'll be fine. Just means that they'll be in the greenhouse a lot, a lot less time than they normally would be to dry. Let's take a walk further down. Looks like a lot of these have flopped over. And we'll get down into the shallot section, which is, I believe, looks like it starts right here. And these look like they've all pretty much dried up. So these are the shallots, and these are a variety called Conserver. All of these are from Johnny's Select Seeds. And yeah, this is a variety that's done really well here in New Hampshire, Zone 5B. We need long day onions and such. So this variety has done really well for me and has consistently, almost consistently, grown really large bulbs. And this, you can feel, is multi. There are two, feels like two bulbs, two separate pieces within this bulb. So these are really, really good sized shallots. Let's take a little walk down here. Oh yeah, here you can see one that is opened up. That's what they look like. Then further down past the bolted lettuce, this is what lettuce looks like when it bolts. Little lettuce flowers. And here are some of the fresh onions. I think these were Red Long Detrapia. And they're not rotted. They're probably edible, but these won't store very well. So I'll pull them up and we'll use them in the kitchen right away. Stand back here and you can get a look at how long this row is. So now I'm going to go through, I'm going to step on any of the onions that are still upright to bend them over. And then I'm going to just start pulling them and putting them in the wheelbarrow to take up to the greenhouse. One thing that I make sure I'm very careful about when I pull and handle my onions is when I pull them out of the ground, I just make sure that any big clumps of dirt are just brushed off lightly. I don't damage the roots at all. I allow them to dry completely in the greenhouse before I cut anything else off, cut the tops off and peel some of the old dried skins off. Again, to allow the onion to sort of seal itself before you put it into storage. The other thing you should be careful about is dropping these onions on the ground or slamming them onto hard surfaces. Bruising an onion can also shorten its storage life. So I try to be very gentle when I pick these out and put them in the wheelbarrow, and very gentle placing them on the shelving in the greenhouse to avoid any bruising that might also hasten storage decline or shorten storage life. I've picked all of the red carpet onions from the front of this row and they're in the wheelbarrow. So now I'm going to go bring this wheelbarrow up to the greenhouse and lay them out on the tables in there. So I'm here at the greenhouse and I'm going to spread these red carpet onions out on these tables here to dry for probably a couple of weeks here in the warmth of the greenhouse and the sunshine. Now, you can just take these out of the field and leave them on the side of a row or on one of the tarps to dry out in the field, and that would be perfectly fine. However, despite the lack of rain this year, I know that we're supposed to get some rain in a couple of days, and I really would just rather bring these inside or under the protection of the greenhouse and let them dry without periodic bouts of rain. I think they dry better and store better if they're in more consistent conditions. Can't say that I've I know that to be fact, but just from my experience, I think they dry much better if they're kept in a warm, sunny location out of the rain. So they're going to go here in the greenhouse. The other thing is I could take this onion and cut the top off and use it today, or even keep it in the fridge for a week or two, and it will be perfectly fine. The problem is when you want to store it for longer than that, not under refrigeration, say in your cellar, if you cut the top off and just throw it into storage, it's going to rot within a couple of weeks. So that's why this step is absolutely critical for storage onions, to be able to store for the winter. We rarely buy onions anymore. I usually manage to grow enough of a crop and keep them in the right conditions that I can go from one onion harvest to another, and rarely have to buy onions. I bought 2 onions this year, and only because I had a recipe that called for a lot of onions, and most of the red ones had rotted, so I needed to throw them out. But then after that, these onions in the field were big enough that I could pick some and eat them directly, and they were perfectly fine. And I haven't had to buy any more onions because I've just been going into the garden and picking them as I need them. So this will be our winter store. It'll last us through well into spring. We will lose some onions on the way. There will be onions that will rot. It just happens. But the majority of them will be perfectly fine for the rest of the winter. And I'm very excited about that. All right, 2025's onion harvest is officially in the greenhouse, drying. It's quite a bit. Look at all these beautiful onions. These are the red onions, whose name I'm blanking on right now. And then here are all the yellow ones. The yellow ones are consistently, or seem to be consistently, more uniform in size, slightly bigger. These are the Patterson. And then they spill over into this shelf here. Look at them all. They're so beautiful. And then we have shallots. And some of these shallots are just ridiculous. And then we have, little ones like this, which will work just fine in, cooking or whatever. So I will keep them. But look at these. Yay, I'm so happy. I actually did get something out of my disastrous garden this year. This is quite the haul. So there was a method to my madness in getting this floor in before the onions came into the greenhouse. And this is why. As you can see, there's quite a bit of onion debris on the floor of this greenhouse already. And I only just put them in. I haven't been, flipping them over or pulling greens off of them. So as they dry and as I clean these up for storage, there's going to be a lot more debris. And this floor will allow me to just sweep it all into a pile and get it out of here. when it was just the ledge pack, basically a dirt floor, it was a bit more difficult to get stuff out of the greenhouse and to keep it clean. So I'm happy I took the time and made the effort to get this done before I brought the onions in. Back in the market garden, I'm here at the empty onion row. Completely empty. All done. I'm going to leave this plastic here on top of the row for probably another month or so. Weeds are still sprouting, and this just helps keep the weeds down for next year. So I actually have some weeding to do here in some of the holes, but I'll do that later. And then, this will help keep the weeds down. Have a little bit of weeding to do back there by the lettuce too. Oh well, this task is done, and I feel pretty good about that. All right, I'm going to take a moment here in front of the pollinator border and just admire the lovely fall color that is around me. This is just ridiculous, isn't it? I love it. It's loaded with bees. I can hear them buzzing, and I see all sorts of butterflies as well. The goldfinches were in here earlier this morning ripping apart some of the sunflowers that have gone by. And it's so fun to watch all the wildlife that comes into this one 30-inch wide row. It's amazing what just planting a little bit of a garden can do. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you for joining me in the market garden and watching the great onion harvest of 2025 from Sanborn Meadow Farm. I do appreciate that you're here, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Take care. Bye.